In his 1912 philosophical work, Bertrand Russell wrote that philosophy is to be studied not for the sake of any definite answers to its questions, but rather for the sake of the questions themselves. A large majority of society seems to uphold philosophy as solely a questioning of moral rights in existence, but several philosophers have extended that idea to examine all aspects of knowledge, including science and math. Notably, Immanuel Kant tried to reconcile physics and metaphysics by asking questions of, can we truly know space, time, or causality? And are the laws of physics absolute, or are they just human ways of structuring reality? You may very well be wondering how this relates to AP Physics 1, and it all comes down to Albert Camus's concept of absurdism, humans seeking meaning in a universe that offers none. We follow rules, routines, even scientific laws. But why? Studying AP Physics without asking the right questions is meaningless, yet we choose to do it anyway. Here are 3 ways we can find philosophy in physics. Laplace's demon was a thought experiment proposed in 1814 in Laplace's scientific essay titled A Philosophical Essay on Probabilities. In the context of physics, the idea of determinism states that if an intellect, aka the demon, were to know all the positions and velocities of every particle in the universe, all the forces acting on them, then it could calculate the entire past and future with perfect accuracy. Then the question arises of, are we the intellects watching the world around us, each and every object possessing no conscious free will, and knowing both past and future by the laws of kinematics? As Laplace suggests, we would know all the forces that set nature in motion and all positions of all items of which nature is composed. To put this to the test, we can demonstrate a ball rolling down a ramp and determine the time it takes to reach the bottom. We first start with Newton's second law for the translational motion accounting for friction. Then we can use rotational motion around the center of mass to find the force of friction. After some substitutions, we derive an acceleration of 5/7 times the gravitational acceleration times sine of theta. We can then use our measurements of the ramp along with kinematic equations to predict the ball to reach the bottom in 0.588 seconds. When we conduct the experiment, we determine almost the exact same time as predicted. As the demonstration reveals, the ball indeed does not possess free will, or alternatively the ball seems deterministic but might just be blinded by its surroundings. The first interpretation insinuates Laplace's conclusion that the ball doesn't decide to roll, it simply must, because that's how physics governs it. By taking advantage of kinematic equations and the laws of physics, we metaphorically serve as intellects who predict the past and futures of unconscious objects around us. Imagine if every single moment in your life was repeated infinitely, exactly the same, forever and ever. Would you be willing to live this exact life again and again for eternity? That is the exact question that Friedrich Nietzsche asks in his concept of eternal return. As Nietzsche states in his works, what if this life as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more? In essence, he asks the questions of, would you curse the demon or embrace it? Do you live in a way where you would be proud to repeat forever? Can you say yes to life, including even its sufferings? To demonstrate the cycle of eternal life, we'll be strapping Thanos to a pendulum and observing his never-ending life. As a matter of fact, we can use the laws of simple harmonic motion to predict the period of each lifetime after measuring the length of the string and using the gravitational acceleration, which the equation gives us as 0.568 seconds. Now at the very top of the cycle, Thanos stores all of his mechanical energy in gravitational potential energy. This is a representation of birth and youthful naivety. Thanos slowly grows up as his life becomes more and more chaotic, and he gains more kinetic energy. Now at the very bottom of the pendulum, all of Thanos' energy has been converted to kinetic energy. This is the peak of his life, the moment of joy and self-actualization as Thanos snaps half the universe to death. But as he goes back up, he faces uphill battles and struggles to maintain his kinetic energy, starting to doubt the meaning of life. The very top represents the death of Thanos, a symbol of failure, chaos, and descent. The cycle repeats over and over again with death and birth infinitely looping across each other. The pendulum wants to swing forever, but friction eventually pulls it down. Just like us, we may strive to live courageously and joyfully, but the wear of daily life, fear, and doubt slow us down. In this demonstration, friction suggests a natural entropy towards saying no to eternal return as the motion fades away slowly. Sartre's existentialism states that we are not born with a fixed purpose. We create meaning through our choices. We are radically free, and with that freedom comes absolute responsibility. Sartre calls denying that responsibility bad faith, pretending you're not free when you actually are. In his 1944 book No Exit, he depicts 3 dead characters trapped in hell. The main character, Garcon, tries to excuse his cowardice by blaming others, but he's confronted with the fact that he has to choose his own actions. Let's draw the free body diagram for Garcon. On the left is the external force of social judgment that comes from the fear of being seen as a coward by the people around him. Dragging him down is the external desire to escape responsibility. He blames circumstance, others, the war, anything but himself for his situation. These 2 forces bring Garcon closer to hell, to the point where he refuses to leave the room. But Sartre's philosophy insinuates the need for a force of internal guilt and the freedom to define himself as a baseline of human consciousness. We can even take this philosophy back to the ball demonstration, where Sartre asks the question, what is consciousness if not the presence of free will against external forces? Unlike the ball, an intellectual who possesses free will can simply recognize the ramp and decide to jump off, or stay still, or even change the ramp itself. Even in a universe governed by forces and formulas, we are not just objects in motion, rather we are beings who choose. As Sartre reminds us, man is nothing but what he makes of himself.